What's up, guys? Hope you guys doing well. I mentioned in a previous video about discipline, and I couldn't really give you guys like a proper detailed explanation of discipline and why you need it and why it's really important in the scope of trading. And I kind of pondered on it for a bit, and I figured I'd actually give you like a proper video about discipline and how to actually kind of develop it properly. And before you guys click off the video, I'm not going to make a really long-winded video about discipline because everyone and their nan has spoken about discipline, especially when it comes to trading as well. And I think the last thing you want to hear is another guy on the internet talking about discipline and why you need it. I'm not going to be droning on about it. I'm just going to get down to the root cause of it and how we can use it to our advantage. And I think that is what you'd find more interesting. Obviously, we hear about all these inspirational influencers online like Alex Hormozi or Chris Williamson or David Goggins talk about discipline in a broad aspect, but I've not really seen, I mean, I'm sure there probably is people online, but me personally, I've not seen anyone talk about discipline solely on focusing on trading. So I'm just going to talk about it now. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because I've spoke about it a lot in previous videos about how discipline is one of the biggest solutions to a lot of problems in your own life, but also the reflection in trading as well. Now, as we know, trading and life, they go hand in hand, right? And so, however you act and the decisions you choose to make outside in your own life is then also reflected in your habits and your traits inside trading too, because trading is a mirror. The main reason why we need this discipline is to mitigate ourselves from taking bad decisions and to stop getting distracted, right? And some of these examples of distractions could be the shiny object syndrome. So what I mean by this is being distracted and having your eyes pulled away from what you're currently trying to do in search of something new, something that's that piques your interest at a time. And so you follow what's going on over there. And before you know it, you've been taken away from what you were doing before. The internet in general, the internet is a very distracting place. I don't really need to talk much about that, but social media, the internet, it's all a major distraction from what you're trying to do. And to be honest, only a certain percentage of people can navigate through the internet without being swayed by what is currently out there in terms of lifestyle, comparison, things like that. Only a select few number of people, and mostly people who haven't actually been brought up with the internet, who can actually say to themselves that they're not really fussed or they're not really bothered about what goes on the internet because they're focused on what they're doing, you know. And also bad habits that have just been ingrained in yourself from earlier on before you even started to do trading, like alcoholism, drugs, things like that, bad habits, you know. So we all know that we should be having discipline, but whether we choose to take the actual correct decision and the correct action to actually do the right thing and have a positive outcome for what we want to do is a separate matter in itself. And your discipline is what's going to differentiate what you know you should be doing to actually what you are doing, to what actually happens. So just like a quick example, you know, you know you should be waking up early in the morning, you know you should be hitting the gym, and you know you should be getting on with work as soon as you can. But what could happen is you tend to lie in, you hit the snooze button on your alarm, you don't make your bed, you crawl out of bed, you eventually go downstairs or go have some breakfast and stuff your face. So, you know, instinctively that is not the right thing you should be doing, but you just start to develop this sort of guilty conscience on your mind that you know you shouldn't have done that, you know what the right thing should have been, but you chose not to do it for some reason. So if that's someone like you, then it means that you need to develop your discipline, right? So obviously everyone has to start somewhere. You have to try it in order to get used to it and to keep doing it. Discipline is more so about doing the hard things, especially when you don't feel like it. Continually doing it consistently, even in times when you don't want to do it. It's more so about the endurance, about the long-term game. A lot of these distractions, they have occurred because of what the world is nowadays. Things like short-form content, the internet, as I said before, they're all very distracting, and they can all lower your attention span to what you're currently trying to achieve in the task at hand. So I'm going to try talk about how to develop your discipline, more so just in the scope of trading. So hopefully you guys haven't clicked off the video yet, because I know discipline is a very boring topic, and well, let's be honest, if someone's watching this video, they probably find it boring, but they're probably someone who's not going to make it anyway, so it is what it is. I'm going to read you a line, or the back of a book called The Way of the Superior Man. And this book is more about a spiritual guide to mastering challenges as a masculine man. But the quote that the author, David Dada, has put on the back, on the blurb, is quite good, actually. So he says, when a man's value is no longer measured by what he does, by his finances or social standing, how does he determine his worth? In our new world, a man's presence, his depth of awareness, is his most valuable asset. I initially spoke about this with someone on my Discord community, and it was really eye-opening to see how, when you really deep and understand fully what that quote says, you begin to flick through your mind, through your memory, and just actually open your mind to the world at what's actually happening, how most people are behaving. In our new world, a man's presence, his depth of awareness, is his most valuable asset. So what that means is your ability to have consciousness and presence in the current situation that you're in is your most valuable asset. And this is how you develop discipline. Having consciousness and presence in the current moment. Now, as I said before, a lot of the distractions out there, like social media, the internet, shiny object syndrome, these are all distractions. But if you are able to develop a good consciousness to not be swayed by these distractions, for example, not wanting to go look at another trading strategy when yours doesn't work, and trying to backtest without trying to get distracted, then you'll start to develop a better attention span to what you're trying to do, and it means that you'll get more done. You'll probably make more progress. Now, we're in a world nowadays where, as I said before, short form content and the internet, everything around us is all a distraction. It's all trying to kind of rot your brain, giving you ADHD symptoms, for example. And it's not good for your brain, and you can't really get real progress done without something happening, without being distracted. And this really does extend out to trading. Why? Because as a developing trader, what our aim is to try and we're trying to improve our decision-making skills. We're trying to improve our decision-making skills so that we can gain a monetary outcome from what we choose to do. Now, life is also full of decisions. every encounter that you have, every thought that you have, every crossroads or path that you reach, you're met with a decision. You can either choose the correct decision or you can do anything else. But ultimately, you know in your mind that the correct decision is what you should be taking. It might mean it's more difficult. It takes longer. It's not going to feel nice initially. But you know that once it's done, the outcome of that will be much better than the other rubbish decisions that you could have chosen to do. The more easier, the more comfortable, the more warmer decisions that you could have taken. I want you guys to look at the world now as a form of taking decisions consciously and to kind of categorize them in by either whether it's instant gratification or if it's delayed gratification. We know that we should be spending more time backtesting. We know that we should learn what needs to be learned. We should backtest it to make sure and prove to ourselves that we have a proof of concept so that we can go test it out in the markets. That, I'd say, is delayed gratification processes, thoughts and steps that we should be taking. But what do most people do? They learn something and then they want to go test it in the market and trade live, buy a prop firm challenge or put money into an account to try and make money. That's instant gratification. It might not even be gratification. They'll end up getting their arse handed to them, and that's just unfortunate for them because they deserve it. But the need to want to do instant pleasurable decisions should be stopped. We should be looking more at the fact that we want to take on the more difficult decision because we know it's going to be hard, but in the future and in the long term, in the longevity of trading, it's going to serve us better. So as I said, life is full of decisions. And if we can't consciously choose the right decision consistently, the correct decision consistently, then we can't expect to have consistent positive outcomes in our life. And by extension of that, your trading will also suffer. If you can't choose the correct decision in learning to trade, in developing and gaining experience as a trader, and then also making the decision in the markets live, then you're not going to be able to reap a positive outcome consistently. So how do we become more conscious and more present then, you might be asking? Well, there are a number of ways you can do this, and you can start by having positive habits, like meditating, for example, trying to sit down and do some work for a solid amount of hours without any distractions. The world is full of dopamine. Dopamine is a very simple, pleasurable hormone that is released during something that we enjoy seeing. I'm not like a doctor or like a qualified person to speak on this, but I'm just talking about what I know from my own experiences, right? So consciousness and presence. The main way I was able to develop this was by meditation. And when you think about meditation, it's not probably what you think initially, where you're trying to do some complex sort of yoga or something weird like that. But it's just as simple as putting everything away, stopping everything, and then just sit there silently and just clear your mind. Focus on nothing. Focus on the sound of your breath, for example. This is what I do. And so when you do this, you'll find that your mind starts to wander off. And this is how it's replicated in real life. When you're trying to do your work, but your mind starts to wander off and be distracted into doing other things. So when you do this meditation, what you're going to be doing is you're training a muscle in your brain to be able to stop yourself from doing this. So what you want to be doing is consciously focus on something. And then when your mind wanders off, You're going to train your mind to be able to recognize that your mind has wandered off, to then focus back onto the present moment of you focusing on your breathing. And how this will then be replicated in your work, outside in your own life, but just in trading, for example, you'll then develop the consciousness to be able to step back and think, what is the decisions that I'm being given here? What is the choices and the potential outcomes of both? How can I examine and understand both outcomes so that I can tell myself what's the correct decision that should be made? It's not just in making decisions, but it's also in the decisions you make to try and get on with yourself, trying to do something in the present moment. So doing your work, for example, if you'll be able to train your consciousness to realize that you're being distracted so that you can carry on with doing your work. And the same thing goes with trading. When we eventually get to actually trading the markets live, we want to be able to take a step back and think about what we're currently doing. What's the choices and the options we're currently being presented with? And it kind of makes us think twice before we actually do it. Because if you think about how a lot of people trade nowadays with a lot of emotion and a lot of impulsiveness, FOMO, over-leveraging, revenge trading, all of these emotional, discretional actions and decisions that people choose to do, it's all coming from a state of just doing things subconsciously, just doing it without even thinking about what the potential outcome will be. Now, people obviously only see the benefit of what that action will be. Revenge trading, for example, people will only see the benefit side of revenge trading, getting back your losing trade to break even or hopefully a winner. But no one wants to understand that you can put yourself in a bigger hole than what you dug out initially. And so if you just train your consciousness to just be present in the moment and realize that you can put yourself in a way worse decision, most likely, and all it could take for you is just to stop, leave, and come back the next day to potentially have a winner, for example. There's over loads of other examples I can give you about trying to train your consciousness to be present in the moment and realize what you're doing. But this quote by David Data, it's honestly, it makes you think, it makes you view the world in a whole new way. And it could be something as simple as this is a real life example, but it could be something as simple as having a conversation with someone, and then you can tell by the way you're talking, the way you look at them, you can see that their eyes are just wandering off, or that they're turning their head, or they're getting distracted by what's happening nearby. So that's how you can tell that someone's lost consciousness and they're not present in the moment to what you're trying to say to them. That was just a quick example, but this obviously translates into all aspects of your life. But just for the sake of this video, I just wanted to talk about it in terms of trading, and I hope you guys can appreciate this video, and I hope I've really got the point across, because consciousness and presence, your depth of awareness, is something that's lacking a lot in a lot of people. Considering how the world is nowadays and what they're pushing onto us, it's making us lose that day by day. It's ruining our own brains, and to be honest, you'll find that having this depth of awareness is really going to carry you in a lot of aspects of your life, not just in trading, but also in your health, in your relationships. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you listened this far, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I think that just about wraps it up. So thank you guys for watching. Stay happy, stay blessed, and thanks for watching.